All right. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me here today. You're looking fantastic, everyone, all of you. This is a session about maximizing teams for learning, and this is what I personally care a lot about. I'm from LMS365. We have a tool that helps you do this, but the point of this speech is not so much to talk about that, but rather to look at what you currently have access to, how you can utilize that to the best of its abilities, and we'll take it from there. So a big part of this is virtual instructor-led training, because instructor-led training is definitely happening. We are talking to organizations that are increasingly doing more and more of this virtually via Teams. Of course, the big bomb happened around COVID, but it's still being pushed more and more so into a virtual hybrid environment. So we're just going to run through some of the newer features that have come out that can be particularly relevant for delivering virtual instructor-led training in Teams and hopefully increasing your learner engagement in the process. Some of them are oldies, but still goodies and worth highlighting a little bit about how to make best use out of those. And then we have the new kid on the block, I guess still, called Microsoft Viva. It's actually Viva's first birthday today, I believe. So it's not entirely new anymore. But we'll talk a little bit about Microsoft Viva and specifically Viva Learning, which is obviously the most relevant part of Viva Learning for this audience here today. And then you're not going to avoid it. We're going to mention LMS365 at the end. But again, just to repeat, the goal of this is to have some takeaways that you could literally use this afternoon without paying for anything or configuring anything in a different way, because there's lots of hidden features that can be maximized within Teams. So here we go. We start off with the virtual instructor-led training top item, which is polls. And this is the ability to embed a poll within your live session. You can do this in a few different ways. My personal favorite way is to prepare in advance. And the way that you would do that is within your Teams calendar, find the meeting that you are wanting to add a poll to, double click on it, and go into the chat. When you're in the chat with participants, I skipped a screenshot here. There were lots of screenshots. This one didn't make the cutting room floor. In the chat, there's a add an app button. Once you've clicked on that, it brings you in here. And this is currently called Forms. It is changing names to polls in a month or so when you're interacting with this in Teams. As of today, it's Forms. And when you add that app into your meeting, you come to this section. It's the small print. Nobody reads that, right? You can just click Add, and that has then been added into the meeting. And you can then come up here and say Create New. And this is then when you can start creating new questions and preparing for your meeting. There are some different question types. I don't know how many of you are aware of it, but right now, this week, there's something going on called Microsoft Ignite, where they're rolling out tons of new things. There's new question types that have arrived as well, so I think there's 5 at this point. These are the 3 that were here as of a month ago. But this allows you then to choose what kind of type of questions you want to have. Standard multiple choice type stuff. Now you can have a ranking question that can be used within the meeting. And there's this word cloud, which is for free text, which I particularly like to use. So also, you get some suggestions if you're just looking for some sort of a refreshing question that you might not have thought of. You get some questions, you can just click on those and that will pre-populate your poll for you. So I have chosen all 3 of those that we saw before. And you can see this is in the draft. So I'm the only one who's able to see this. And I can prepare it. Here we've got a multiple choice. We've got a quiz, meaning that it's the same as a multiple choice, but it just has a correct answer. And then we've got this word cloud. So I've given it a question, some answers, and then when I set this live, you can do this prior to the meeting, you can do it during the meeting, but when it's live, then people are allowed to send in their answer. This is my answer. The sky is blue, but I think it should be green. And once I submit these, then you can choose how you want this to be set up. If it's everybody who will be able to see the results in the meeting itself, or if it's just the organizer who's going to be compiling this after the fact. And this free text word cloud, what's so great about this is that this automatically highlights any commonalities from the answers, and will pull this out to try and make sense of a lot of free text answers. So this is how this looks in the chat during a live meeting. This is what it would look like. So here in the chat of the meeting, we're seeing the responses. So you could prepare this in advance, and then you could, during the meeting, release them out to your audience and engage with them there. So sorry, really big Travis there. So that's polls. Very simple idea. It works really well. I did mention that my personal preference is to create these in advance. You can do them ad hoc during the meeting as well. So you can see up here, I've got this polls app. You can also add the app in the meeting and do it on the fly if you're into that kind of thing. It's a matter of taste, I guess. This is the little one that came out, I think, in the springtime. That was just a no-brainer and was great, but not a lot of people are aware of it. You can see who was the last person to raise their hand and who's in line, and use this method to then call on people in order. And that was something that I personally was waiting for a couple of years, and is now a reality. So that's great. Breakout rooms. This is one of the oldies, but the goodies that still a lot of people might not have really used. It's one of those things that personally I only encounter when I have to use it, and then I forgot to prepare and understand how it works. So we're just going to run through how this works for the benefit of those people that might not have used it before. Again, we're in a meeting, right? So from my calendar, double-clicked, I'm in the meeting details. I can see all the people that are in the meeting. If I want to prepare in advance, you can do this in two ways: prepare in advance or do it on the fly. But if you're preparing in advance, then you've got up here in the meeting details a number of tabs, one of which is breakout rooms. And once we're in here, it looks like this. We can create some rooms. And here you decide how many rooms you want to have. And then we've got these ellipses, the three dots. And this is then where we assign people to the room. Well, first we can give it names. So we've got a service brainstorm, and I think a product brainstorm, and then it's going to ask me how I want to put people into those rooms. So we've got the ability for the system to automatically distribute everybody in just equal order, or I can go in and I can manually add people into the breakout rooms. This is how that would look when you are manually doing that, and you select the people and then select the room and send them over to those rooms. Thumbs up. It's a good thing to do. Just before I go forward, another new feature that has come relatively recently is the ability to add a co-organizer. Some of you might know this pain, that if you're not the organizer, you are unable to access the breakout rooms. You can add a co-organizer, up to 10, for your meeting in advance, and that would then give those co-organizers the same ability to do all of this. So, side note. In the meeting itself, then I can, up here next to my polls app, I've got my rooms app, and then here I'm able to open the rooms. I'm also able to, in this interface, choose which presenter I want to manage the rooms. Slightly different than a co-organizer. So here we're giving like a boss of each room that is a presenter, not a co-organizer who's able to create rooms. Yeah, so Mess is the presenter who's going to be managing this room. You can set a time limit. You can automatically move them to the rooms, meaning that they'll get kicked back out again after the time limit. That's nice. or you can let them choose their own time frame of whether they want to return to the meeting or not. Yes. Another oldie but a goodie is live captioning, which is simply live captioning of the meeting. A lot of people don't know where to turn that on. That's again in here under the ellipses, where you can, by the way, also add additional apps to your meeting. But if we go down here, we have both turn on and off live captioning and start the recording. What recording does nowadays is it automatically turns on live transcription, which is really nice because you can then either use this to document specific meetings that might be part of your compliance process, or you can just use it so that people who want to review a transcript of a session rather than watch a whole video can access all of that. And usually I would be accessing that in Microsoft Stream. But this is a screenshot of what that then looks like, very similar to the live caption. It's just connected to the recording of the meeting and will allow you to search into all of that text. And where do you access these transcripts? Again, you can do that within Stream. That's typically where I'm going in. And for those of you not familiar, Stream is the corporate version of YouTube, which is part of the Microsoft 365 infrastructure. So you can always get access to it there. Alternatively, we can access it here by opening up the details to the meeting. This is where we can also see attendance, where we can see meeting notes, and up here then we would have a transcript section with the written out transcript of the session. Sorry if the pace is high. There's a lot to get through. I hope it all makes sense. Well, maybe we'll have time for questions at the end. Who knows? Something that has sort of changed names several times is this concept of presenter mode. And what presenter mode is basically putting your face on top of the content that you're wanting to show. And this is called different things depending on how you're accessing it. But let's just say you're doing a normal screen share within a team session. Then within when you're sharing, when you start sharing either your screen or your specific window, then you can see your presenter mode up here. So you can select that from the very beginning. Once you're sharing, you can also toggle it on and off. That'll be in the middle section. Here are some great examples starring yours truly. So this is one of them. I can't remember what they're all called, but this is my face overlaid on top of the content. This is my face beside the content. And this is my large face overlaid beside the content. And this is for screen sharing. We'll talk a little bit about using PowerPoint along with these kind of features right now. So when you are presenting PowerPoint, a lot of you might already be doing this, but it's one of those things that typically you don't try because you haven't tried it out before the meeting starts. But if you, instead of sharing your screen, share your PowerPoint, then you come into this thing called PowerPoint Live, where you, for instance, can do a similar style to the overlay. In PowerPoint Live, it's now called PowerPoint Cameo, and is just allowing you to have a different overview. But the benefit is that you can still do the same face on top of the content if you want, but the real benefit is that you have access to see all of your upcoming slides, and you can also keep an eye on what's going on with your audience. And for me, that's the biggest benefit, because when you're sharing your screen, you can't see any facial reaction for the people that you're speaking to. It's only the last person that talked, and it's maybe not even on your screen, or it's on the screen beside your main screen. Another benefit of this is, as the attendee, then they can actually translate slides. So if any of you have global teams where you're going to be working with people that would prefer to consume your very dense PowerPoint slide in their own language, then this allows them to come in here and translate the slide, and it happens in real time, and it's quite amazing. So those are, in my opinion, what I think the most useful virtual instructor-led training features are in Teams. Little expert tip, there's a Microsoft blog that comes out with information, a Teams blog every month, and they come out with a new features list. If you're into this kind of thing, then you can always go in there and click on meetings, and it'll give you the most up-to-date stuff. Like today, for instance, they came out with one where the top feature was the ability to have an avatar, a 3D avatar. I decided not to include it in the presentation today. I don't know, maybe that's a big one on your wish list, but there's always stuff coming, and it's interesting to see what gets prioritized. So now we're going to get out of the instructor-led training and move towards Viva Learning, which is part of a product called Microsoft Viva, which is a whole new subscription that Microsoft has added, which is a employee experience platform and has a lot of apps. There's a lot of things going on here, and it's really full of great features, but what we're going to specifically be talking about is Viva Learning. And there is the free version of Viva Learning, and there's the licensed version of Viva Learning. And just like all of the other Microsoft applications, there's new stuff coming all the time, exciting things. Also for Viva Learning. One of those is that LMS365 is now integrated within Viva Learning, so we can talk a little bit about that as well. But for the free app, we'll just run through what you can do. So first, and perhaps most interesting, you get access to content. And this includes Microsoft's own content, also that content that they own by way of LinkedIn. So you've got access to Microsoft Learn, which is a very technical content repository. You have access to Microsoft 365 adoption training, which is more relevant to the typical learner. And then you also have the top 125 LinkedIn Learning courses, allowing you to get free access to some great content from LinkedIn Learning. This is what it looks like, more or less. You've got an app on the left-hand side of your Teams. You can just ask your IT department to turn that on, the free version if you want to, and then you're going to see the content from each different supplier listed separately, and you're going to have a search bar where you're then going to be able to search for content from all of those different repositories at the same time. You can also add your own organizational content that might be in a SharePoint library. So documents or videos that you want to highlight for a specific group of people, you can add that in the same way that we had, LinkedIn Learning shown. I think I've got an example here. So, Microsoft Learn, and then this Contoso, that is then an example, Microsoft branded example of a Word document and a PDF and things that would be interesting material for learners to be able to find. And then, of course, you can view, search, and share courses. And this is really what Viva Learning is it's the Google search for learning within Teams, which will search a wide range of sources. So when you're searching, you've just got a search bar, search for whatever it is you're looking. This uses some AI to help show things that you would personally be interested in. Once you've found the content that you're interested in, this is one of those LinkedIn Learning course examples, then you're able to share. And you can do so by clicking on that share button up there. And this is shareable to a channel and via chat. And it will simply link then anybody who's interested into that to that course. So that's about it for the free version. The paid version will open up some additional features, such as course recommendations. It's important to say, Viva Learning has no sort of structured learning. So enrollments, tracking isn't really the thing here. Recommendations and sharing is what it's all about. So it's optional content from being aggregated from a number of sources. So this is what it would look like if you were recommending this to somebody, and you select the course, you recommend it, you choose the person from your organization, give a note. You can also give a due date for the recommendation so that that person knows it's recommended until a specific date. But all of the tracking is a 100% manual process, so just be aware of this. This is not assigning a course to somebody, this is purely recommending something. Because this is the view from the person who this has been recommended to. And it's up to them then to go into this drop down and choose their status. So keep that in mind. The person who is recommending has a Manage tab. And in this Manage tab, then they're able to see what people have proactively gone in and marked as being in progress or completed. And there's additional integration points in the paid version. So you can add, beyond those content partners that I mentioned before, you can add a number of other content partners. Here's what this looks like as an admin. So this is your IT team would be going in and doing this, but just a screenshot of some of the content partners. You know, we've got Go1 in here, Edcast, Coursera, etc. And that will then just add extra sources to your Google search so that you would be able to then search from all of these places in one area. But just bear in mind, again, just like Google, when you get a search result that comes up and you click on it, you won't be consuming that in Google. You will, in most cases, then be sent to another location. And that's the same thing that happens to a lot of these. Some of the content offerings, like LinkedIn Learning, is going to be delivered in-app. And we're going to see more and more of these kind of content partners being allowed to do that as Microsoft issues more APIs. But as it is now, you're going to be sent out to a lot of web browsers. And then this also allows you to have integration with learning management systems. So as I mentioned, there's no structured learning. There's no method of enrollment and tracking of completions. So you're still going to have an LMS. The LMS will simply be one of those content providers that will be searched for. So that includes LMS365, Cornerstone On Demand, Saba, and SuccessFactors. And that's the last thing. I forgot that's the last thing. So that was it from the paid features. There are some things that are coming that are on the roadmap. For instance, the ability with this learning management system integration to expand it from simply being the search to also including the dashboard and the notifications of upcoming assignments and things that would traditionally be held within the LMS interface itself or within email notifications or something like that. So there are constant developments happening, and I'm personally very excited to see where this goes. So if you want to do more in Teams beyond all of this, then you need to come over and talk to us at LMS365, because what we're all about here is taking your existing Microsoft environment and turning it into a learning platform. And this is completely based on those organizations where their learners are using Teams every day, they're using SharePoint every day, and it's just this learning in the flow of work concept of reaching those learners where they are as opposed to trying to pull them somewhere else. And this is done in a number of ways, including SharePoint, perhaps in your intranet, perhaps in an external facing extranet for your customers and partners, but fully integrated within SharePoint. This is integrated within Teams. Just like Viva Learning, we also have a Teams app, but we have then that structured learning component, the ability for learners to see all of their mandatory training as well as search for optional courses. And then on mobile devices. So we have our own mobile app, both for iOS and Android, as well as supporting the Teams mobile app if you're wanting to simplify your end users' mobile devices and only have minimal amounts of apps on there. All of this is being reported using Power BI. So our ethos here is not to reinvent the wheel, but to use what you're already subscribing to, and that includes Power BI for data analytics. So feel free to connect with me. This is a topic that I'm really interested in general about Teams and the use for learning. So this will connect you with me on LinkedIn, where I post things from time to time on that subject. We have a booth right on over here, so you can also come back and talk to us. We've got, I think, 6 minutes. Is that correct? Yeah, 5 minutes. If there are any questions, we can field them. I've got a microphone. So let me know. Are there any Teams-related topics that you guys would like to talk through? Yeah.
Thank you. A quick Teams question for breakout rooms. When you are setting up a co-organizer, does that person have to be within the same organization as the meeting organizer, or could they be a guest?
That's a good question. They would definitely need to be an external guest in the Active Directory, so they would need to have been added in. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. That's a good question. Maybe our Microsoft partners back here know. Do you know the answer? No. We all need to Google it.
I've got a question regarding the polls functionality.
Yeah.
Can you set up a poll for a reoccurring event, or would you have to set them up every single time?
You would need to set them up every time. If you were doing something reoccurring, then you would just use a normal form. And you can still embed a form into the meeting, and then that would also collate all of the data over time.
Okay.
So that's how I'd approach that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So what type of content can you embed into Teams and SharePoint? Is it like actual traditional SCORM-X API content, or is it?
And is this
with
this
LMS
is specific
365?
with LMS 365? You can do anything. So it could be SCORM, it could be courses based on video, documents, literally anything.
Okay.
The Microsoft does not support SCORM natively.
No.
And that might be the background of your question. So if you were looking at Viva, for instance, and having that added into that organizational learning, that wouldn't be an option. But LMS 365 supports all of those content types. That wasn't a planted question, by the way. Any other last call? Well, thanks for being here, everybody. Thank you.